Yeah, that's me. Actually, that's a QR code. That's not me. I'm here, but that's the QR code that is on my badge. In case you're curious to see another picture of me where I am holding a cute dog. It's not my dog. I stole it from my sister, but it's there, and you can look at it in case the talk gets too boring. Yeah, my name is Jonathan. I'm technically a CS student at a German university called Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. It's KIT. It's kind of like MIT, but for poor people. But it's nice. And I'm a research assistant there at a research institute that is concerned with accessibility of digital documents. It sounds super boring, but there's people who need assistance, like during exams or just studying, and we make that possible with a lot of AI and with a big document remediation platform. That's how we call it. The point is I'm using GraphQL, the technology in that project, so I know a lot about it from that context. But technically, I'm also, I guess, CEO, CTO, everything at another company. It's a startup I founded 5 years ago. It's a free game server hosting company. We use GraphQL as well, a lot actually. So in case the talk gets too boring, you can play on a free Minecraft server and technically still use GraphQL and enjoy it. So that's an option too. But yeah, point again is I use Strawberry GraphQL in that context a lot as well. And there's another reason I'm actually one of the developers of Strawberry GraphQL. So is he. He's actually the author of the whole thingy. And there's a previous developer. No, not you're not the previous one. That would be horrible. He's an active one. But there's a bunch of people in the room. So if there's spicy questions at the end, I think we can handle it. And maybe not me, but them. Yeah, I'm actually going to talk a lot about the parts of Strawberry GraphQL in this talk I'm most familiar with. That's why it says something with Web APIs, because that's the area I'm most active in. You can use GraphQL for a lot of cool things, like internal APIs. You don't have to surf them over the internet. You can do really weird stuff, like put GraphQL in front of your file system and then, I don't know, have fun, enjoy it. That's kind of the point of all of this. Okay, let's see. Oh, my notes said I should mention that I'm a Strawberry GraphQL developer and that these slides might be biased towards this framework versus our competition. But there's not really any competition, right, Patrick? They're all code of conduct. Okay. Okay, what's this Strawberry one is talking about? Like, not just me, like everyone at the conference, like you heard it a lot, right? Well, it's a cool library, but we actually want to talk about not just any library, but a library that's enjoyable to use, right? So what does make a library enjoyable to use? That's my definition, like what makes it enjoyable for me. It must be a library that does the job, otherwise I would not pick it, right? It's not fun to use an unrelated library to your problem, then you're not going to solve the problem. It should be well maintained. For various reasons. One of them is at some point you will realize it actually does not do the job. And if it's well maintained, you can ask someone to help you with your problem to like fix something in the library, or you get your own changes merged into the library. That's kind of how I ended up here, because I needed a lot of stuff that Strawberry couldn't do yet, and now it can. And since it was so well maintained, that was actually a lot of fun to do. I will advertise that a bit more later. It should be fun to use. That can mean a lot of things. It's mostly, it has a nice syntax, I guess, or nice patterns. It uses modern language features. It doesn't stand in my way. It's just fun. And it should be fun to test, because if we want to use it in production and testing is not fun, then I'm not confident shipping it, or I shouldn't be confident shipping it. So if it's not fun to test, I'm probably not going to enjoy that library all the way through. And I would definitely not enjoy coming back to a project that uses it a few years later and then realize it's broken because I couldn't test it. And yeah, optionally, it should have the Strawberry GraphQL logo, but there's alternatives, but not in this talk. Okay, so as I said, what's that Strawberry GraphQL everyone is talking about? It's a library for GraphQL, which is a protocol, and we implement it. Actually, we implement the server side of things, so it's not a client library you could use to like interact with other GraphQL servers. It's to make servers. And it has an immense focus on developer experience. That's why it's so fun to use. And we know that's a trade-off, but I think we're really good at it. And it's also fun to use. And it should be fun to use that can mean a lot of things. For various reasons, one of them is at some point you will realize it actually does not do the job. And if it's well maintained, you can ask someone to help you with your problem to like fix something in the library, or you get your own changes merged into the library. That's kind of how I ended up here, because I needed a lot of stuff that Strawberry couldn't do yet, and now it can. And yeah, optionally, it should have the Strawberry GraphQL logo, but there's or at least Patrick was really good at it, and we just copy what he did, and then we always think about what would Patrick do, and yeah. So it uses type hints everywhere, so you get a lot of autocompletion in your IDE, which is awesome. We have support for like modern language features, not that modern anymore, but we support asynchronous functions and stuff like that. We have a command line interface that can be used for code generation, so you can get started quickly. We will take a look at this later. And we have code mods, like if we do an upgrade of Strawberry that has some breaking changes, and it's a pattern we can easily like recognize, then we write a code mod for it that will automatically upgrade your code for you when you upgrade to the next Strawberry version, so you don't have to fix all the stuff yourself. You just call a command. We have super cool errors, like that's the good kind of errors. It's an error that actually tells you what is happening where and how to fix it. So it has a link to our documentation. You just click it and do whatever it says, and you will understand why did it break and how can I fix it. Yeah, we have a super cool syntax, and we have many batteries included. Some of them are on the right side. There's certain problems that are common to GraphQL in general, and we have solutions for them, something called data loaders or federation and stuff like that. If you don't know about it, you will learn about it eventually. We have it, and it's first party, it's tested, and yeah, you don't need an extra package or do it your own. Yeah, speaking of being well integrated, we are also integrated with your favorite web frameworks, probably. Like there's a bunch of them, so if you're a normal web developer, like on the server side, I guess, so I guess a backend developer, and you already have your favorite backend framework like Fast API or Django or something, then we probably have an integration for that already, and you can, well, just reply what you already know about your favorite framework, and Strawberry will integrate with it. Who uses Strawberry? I always like that. Whenever I pick up a new library, I check who is actually using it. Like, is it so niche no one has ever used it yet? Or is it used in production at all? And apparently Strawberry is used at Yelp, and that's all based off this Yelp engineer who leaked that on Twitter. And yeah, there's actually more signs. There's like this, oh, it's actually him. Oh yeah, I just recognized it's him. So he opens a lot of like issues in our repositories and asking for help, and he's not, I shouldn't say that, but we have a separate category, which is our sponsors, and it's separate from Yep. Anyways, he's nice, and he has really specific requirements for a permission system, which we're discussing for months now, but he also posts job postings on our Discord, which is nice, I guess. Yeah, our sponsors, we have sponsors, which is nice. Open source with sponsors, imagine. They always use it as well. I checked what they were doing. It's funny stuff. There's like a music streaming service for companies. Apparently that's a thing. There's someone who's really into carbon capture technology. Nice stuff. Even a fertilizer manufacturer and distributor. They're apparently market leader in their state. I don't know which state. But yeah, and there's also biosecurity threat management, which is also nice. Now that I think about it, is it so nice that they use Strawberry? Okay, no, it's awesome, it's awesome. Nothing could fail because of the testing. Okay, and apparently there's also some random video game, like an MMORPG, and they use it for everything, and they use WebSockets, which we're also going to talk about. And well, you technically also used it already because the PyCon Italia website uses Strawberry. And well, I use it, so that's a good sign, right? And maybe you. I mean, technically, you already used it. Okay. Wow, I'm so much slower than I thought. Strawberry uses something called a code-first approach for GraphQL. See, GraphQL always starts with a schema. That's what we see on the left side. That's kind of defining how the GraphQL API looks like. That's independent of any language. It's actually GraphQL has a language, a schema declaration language. That's what you see on the left. And on the right side, you see how you would do the same thing in Python with Strawberry GraphQL. And what you're supposed to see is that it's the same amount of lines, which is somewhat impressive for Python with decorators and stuff. And it looks roughly the same. You could actually use the definition on the right and run it. It wouldn't do much. It's basically just a definition of types. But there's no data involved yet, and this is all about data at some point. Since this is so similar, we can actually use one of Strawberry's tools to get started, the code generation tool. you can run a command and turn the left side into the right side, so you don't actually have to type it. That's useful if you migrate some other service that's written in GraphQL but not in Strawberry, and it has a schema. You could just get the schema and then use code generation and then go from there, and you save a bunch of time. Helps you replicate another schema, for example. Or in our case, we will hopefully use it later to get a quick start on a quick demo. Yeah, but as I said, that schema is somewhat useless, just a definition. There's no way to actually do something meaningful with it other than look at it. And that's where the Strawberry fields come into play. So this is what we saw on the right. We have the funny song type, and we have a field on our query which is called songs. That's one way to retrieve all the songs from our API. Obviously, that's a simple example. I just returned a list of songs, which are instances of the song type. And this is what we call a resolver. Like the songs function is resolving that field on the query type. That's what was missing in the slide before, which made it useless, but now it's useful. This will actually already work. Someone is confused, but they will figure it out. Hi. Okay. Oh yeah, that's the new slide I added 5 minutes ago. So you would repeat the same step, not only for the query, because we also have other operations we can do in GraphQL. Like query is retrieving data from the API. If we want to change data, we would use a mutation, which is a separate kind of operation to keep things clean and separated. And then there's a third type, which is called subscription, which is basically you subscribe to some data that is regularly updated, and you don't have to check, did it change? Did it change? You would get notified about it, which is really convenient. And it works the same. You write resolvers for these three types, and then you combine them into something called a schema, the GraphQL schema. And that thing is really cool, because it can do everything we want. We can use the schema already to use our whole API, given that we wrote resolvers for it. We can write tests against it. And we can actually run it or serve it using the Strawberry command line interface. It has an inbuilt debug server, and it can serve the schema. So you can actually use it in the web browser, or you could actually use it as your backend, but I wouldn't recommend doing that in production at least. And it's really nice for demos as well, because that's not that much code. There's something else you can do with your schema. You can add extensions to it. Strawberry has an extension system. It encapsulates like stuff a lot of people need, or which are just handy to have, like, I don't know, add some tracing to your schema, like check how long do certain resolvers take to retrieve your data or something, or certain queries. Yeah, actually that's profiling, but doesn't really matter. And you could also add some security-related extensions, something like Strawberry GraphQL is obviously just implementing GraphQL. In GraphQL, you can write enormous queries to retrieve data. And some, well, I guess bad actors could write in a super long or even recursive query to get your server down or bring it to its limits. And you can limit the complexity of queries and stuff like that. And we have extensions for that, so you don't have to write that on yourself. Yeah. What else do we have? More slides. OK, I said that the schema is already super powerful, and we can serve it over the browser. That's what we can do. Like, you basically just put the code you just saw in a Python file. I call it app.py, and then you run strawberry run server app, and it will look in your app.py file for a schema, and then magically spin up a web server with hot reloading and a super nice interface. And that's really cool to iterate on your schema and try things out. Like you basically just write a schema which is independent of normal web server stuff. It's like really focused on your data and how to get it. And then you can open this nice web interface. It's called GraphQL. I guess some people already heard of it. It allows you to write queries on the left side, and then you press the big pink button, and you get your results on the right side. It also supports not just queries, but also the mutations I mentioned, and even the subscriptions. So it's really fun to play with and nice to iterate and experiment. Yeah, there's alternatives to GraphQL, like other web interfaces you could use. We also support that. We get that question a lot. That's why I'm mentioning it. Okay, so after seeing this, we probably feel like, okay, this is probably ready for production. We can already use it, so let's ship it. But the thing you should do before that is testing, which is also fun with Strawberry GraphQL, because that's all you need for like a fully functional test. You basically just import your schema, which already can do anything, and that's a PyTest test. So it's just a function that starts with test underscore, and then you basically just do your test. In our case, we have a query that gets us the titles of all the songs from our backend via the GraphQL API. Okay, actually, directly from the GraphQL API, and then you just check that the results match your expectations. So they don't have errors, and that the data returned is exactly what you expect. And you do exactly the same thing with mutations. It's literally the same, except, no, there's no except for your document is not a query, but a mutation. And you can also do the same thing for subscriptions. In that case, you don't get a single result back. You get like an iterable, and you get all the subscription results back over time. What I like to do, which might be controversial, it's at the top of my test files, I have a really big string with queries in it, because I tend to reuse the GraphQL queries in my test a lot. Like, sure, I get all the song titles, but then I test different things. I think I test that it's the right songs, I test the ordering and stuff like that. So instead of rewriting that GraphQL query all the time, I just put them at the top of my file and then reference which query I want to use in my tests. You can see that it says operation name, song titles. I could have put song IDs there instead, but then the test would fail, of course. But that's something you could do. That's a small tip. I don't know. Yeah. Actually, the last test would also fail. The test songs are ranked by popularity, because we don't do that. But I think that's called test-driven development or something. And you can do that as well. Okay. So now we're kind of ready to ship our schema to production. And as I said, you shouldn't do that using the cool debug server. You should probably use your favorite web server for it, or web framework. And that's, well, technically all the ones we support. We support ASCII, and that's basically compatible with a whole range of other web servers who support that protocol. So it's even more than this list. And yeah, I hope everyone found their favorite framework or server in there already. There is some check marks to the right of it, which we're going to discuss in a bit, because that's what I'm mainly working on at Strawberry. And that's so-called transport protocols. That's how do you get the data from your backend actually to the client, or how does your client actually contact your backend in an efficient way. And there's several protocols. And, well, most frameworks support all the protocols they can based on their own capabilities. If there's these I's, it usually means something like, okay, this web server just has no WebSocket support, so we cannot implement the protocols relying on WebSockets. Sometimes, in case of Flask, for example, it means something like that. Flask has no first-party support for WebSockets, at least the last time I checked. They have a really popular library for it, though, but usually we don't do that, at least not as of yet. We rely on first-party WebSocket support in that case. I probably want to say that later. Yeah, let's talk about that later. Okay, this is how an integration looks like. I originally had a Django example, because we like to show that a lot, but since FastAPI recently became like the most popular backend framework, and technically sponsor of this event, I'm showing a FastAPI example instead. But that's all it takes. I hope everyone who used FastAPI before feels familiar with this code. So you just have your normal FastAPI app, and the only thing we add is another router, and it's a router for all the GraphQL stuff. And what we're trying to achieve, like with all the integrations, is that they are kind of idiomatic, like you feel at home, and they try to reuse the patterns your favorite framework uses. Like in case of FastAPI, we're using routers, Or in case of Django, we're providing a view. Or actually, also in the case of Fast API, we have like integration with their dependency injection system and yeah, stuff like that. You're supposed to feel at home. What's that one? Strawberry Django, yeah. You saw that like big table earlier with the check marks. I was meant to say that it doesn't really matter which integration you use, they're all kind of equal. They actually use the same base class in Strawberry, so they're all tested and maintained the same way. There's one integration that's a bit different. And that's in case you use Django, you definitely want to use a package called Strawberry Django or Strawberry GraphQL Django. That's, I guess, the official name. And it comes with a bit more than just a view integration. It has an integration with the whole Django model system, which makes it extremely powerful because it enables you to define your Strawberry types in a compatible way with your database models. And I guess the biggest part is what Thiago, he's actually the author of that library, would call query optimization. Since you can get any kind of request to your GraphQL API, you have, like, potentially you have to ask your database a lot about where to get data from. Like, you do a lot of database calls from different resolvers, and there's techniques to combine them into one single call. But if you want to be like really efficient, you probably should use Django and the query optimizer because it already knows what you are asking for and where to get it from. And using Django magic, it can ask the Django object relation mapper just to return that and have like a super efficient query to your database as well. So you don't have to do the optimization, the package does it for you. There's actually so much more. A lot of people like the debug toolbar in Django, and it's also integrated here as well, so you can actually verify that the optimizations are working, or if you have to give some extra hints. It's also integrated with like the filtering and sorting system of Django, and well, you read the slides by now. Okay, let's go back to the transport protocols. So this is a scary slide. Like, I talk about it because I implemented it and I'm most comfortable with. And there's some fun things here that most people don't know, maybe even Thiago. As a backend developer, you don't really have to care about this. Actually, you do, but also note. The thing is, so these are all the transport protocols, and Strawberry has enabled almost all of them by default. So whatever your clients are speaking is already supported. So you just write your resolvers and it will just work. But since you're probably the same, like if you're a backend developer, you're supporting your clients in some way, and maybe you want to remind them to use a cool protocol because then they will be more efficient. But since that's implemented in backend, we're going to look at it. There's different ways how your clients can get data from your backend and how you're serving it. You can do it via HTTP or WebSockets, and there's various sub-protocols on, like, for achieving specific things. The most common one is GraphQL over HTTP. It's just send a request with what you need and you will get it back. You can use it for queries and mutations, so you can get data and you can change data, but you cannot subscribe to data because you have to ask to get an answer, and you will never know when the data in the backend updated. There's multi-part requests. They're mainly for file uploads. I wouldn't recommend that, but I will say something about that in a bit. There's multi-part subscriptions, which is a new protocol, so it's kind of an easy protocol, and it's, well, abusing multi-part, but I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And, well, there's WebSockets, which look really fancy on the slides, and they kind of are, and that's why I'm working on WebSockets all the time, because you can do all the operations via one protocol. Let's look at them a bit more. So that's the most common one, the GraphQL over HTTP. You can send post and GET requests. Post requests are the most common. It's like the default HTTP method for GraphQL. You can do queries and mutations with that. Some people like to do GET requests, but they're only supported for queries. I would just avoid that, but you can do that. That's just an example how a post body in HTTP would look like. You don't need to know that, but I like to have pictures on my slides. Oh, it's that one. Okay. If you want subscriptions and you want to stay in the whole HTTP realm, you can use what's called multipart subscriptions. That's actually our latest addition to Strawberry. It's a new protocol by Apollo, and it makes use of the fact that with multipart requests, your response has multiple parts and they can arrive over time. And normally use that to upload like multiple files to a server or download whatever, but we can use it to receive events over time. It's a funny hack. It's actually a nice protocol. That's a thing. Don't have to worry about the details. There is also what's called a GraphQL multipart request specification. I'm always looking up there because internally we call them differently. This for us would be upload support. It's the only transport protocol that's disabled by default for some reason. It might have been our first security incident, which has been resolved, so everyone calm down. But I would recommend leaving it disabled. And Patrick is like, what do you mean? I'm using it for my one side project. He actually does, but in the future, it will be safe to use. We came up with a protection mechanism, which I just haven't created pull request yet. Yeah, in case you want to use it now, you have to be aware of some really niche browser policy. It's actually not that niche. It's like the CORS protection for like cross-site requests, which you probably don't want to have. And there's some edge case where a multipart upload is not checked by your browser, so someone could do some bad stuff. We don't protect against it by default because it's really hard to do that, like adding something on top of the schema to protect you against that. It's usually the job of your web framework, and all the web frameworks have protection for that. Like in Django, for example, it's the CSRF protection view decorative thingy. You just add that to your Strawberry thingy and then follow their documentation. It's just not protected by default. It's something you have to do, and that's why we disable it by default, so you don't accidentally use it without knowing about that. Yeah, but this protocol is nice for like if you need file uploads and you want to upload them directly to your GraphQL server. There's better alternatives. Like in any case, you probably just want to upload it to like S3 or some compatible service instead with pre-signed URLs, because if someone uploads like a super big file, you will run into trouble because your server will read the whole file, and depending on how much memory your server has, it will, well, either handle that nicely or it doesn't. There's some benefits to it, but they're really small compared to the disadvantages, which is, sure, you can have uploads in your GraphQL schema, and then you have like one API for everything, and your clients only have to use this one endpoint to handle everything. Well, you decide. Okay. Oh, I have the warning first. Yeah, we are coming to the WebSockets. And we have this warning everywhere. We have it in Discord, we have it on various issues on our GitHub, and we also have it in the documentation because someone did something funny. There's an old protocol which no one should use, and then there's a new one. And there's some overlap in the naming. Like the new protocol's GitHub repository is called GraphQL WS. But that's also the name of the old protocol. So whenever we refer to the old protocol, everyone thinks we're dropping support for the new protocol, and then everyone complains. We started calling it the legacy and the modern protocol just to avoid that whole thingy. So if you read our documentation and you get confused, then just remember there's something weird, and we know what we're doing. It's not a typo. It's just the new protocol is going nowhere. Oh, nice. Oh, maybe I don't have to do a demo. Okay. Yeah, that's the old protocol. It has been deprecated. It's archived on GitHub. No one should use it. The protocol is horrible. And I can say that because I had to implement it, and I'm maintaining it. And there's so many gaps in the specification. It's like, do something. And they put a random word there which doesn't make sense. And then you look in the reference implementation, and they're like, And that's what we do. We do the same, so it looks like it's on purpose. Just don't worry about it and don't use it. And I wish everyone did that, because it's still downloaded almost as much as the new protocol. That's why we haven't removed it yet, because apparently someone uses it. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's the new protocol, which is nice and shiny. It has an actively extended, well, that's wrong. It has a specification, and it's still getting updated whenever a new need or edge case arises. It supports all the GraphQL operations, so you can retrieve data with it, you can change data, and you can subscribe to data. And that's really cool, because your clients can just use WebSockets for everything. So they just have one WebSocket connection to your server, and they can send everything through that one connection. So if you need a lot of data in your app, for example, you can just avoid having to go through the whole overhead of starting a new HTTP request, for example, because you only have to do that once, and then you keep it alive for, well, however your client is using their app or website or whatever. There's one thing to think about, which we didn't think about. Some web servers send WebSocket ping-pong request messages by default. That's something to keep the connection alive. And AIO HTTP does that. Some other frameworks do that, but some don't. I don't know which ones, but we should probably add that to the documentation. Some don't, so in case you run into trouble because your connection cuts off, then it's probably ping-pong, and you should add that. Yeah. Oh, shit. Oops, sorry. Do we do a live demo? How much time is left? Easy, because Strawberry is so enjoyable. I can do that. Maybe I do the other slides first, and then we do the live demo. No, we skipped that one. But we do this one, because that's how I ended up here eventually. So if you like using Strawberry, did I move this? Or you liked what you saw and you want to try it, instead of reading the documentation and complaining about something by creating an issue, you could just create a pull request instead and fix that issue. Because we don't read the documentary that often anymore, because we just know it. But people who get started are actually the perfect candidates to become new contributors, because you find an error in the documentation, or you tried something, it doesn't work, but you're smart enough to figure it out yourself. Then don't create an issue saying, hey, this doesn't work and this is the solution. Create a pull request and fix that, because in that moment you're the expert on that specific issue. And then a lot of nice things happen, and maybe next PyCon you will be here and better prepared for your presentation. If you create a pull request, then something magically happens if you merge it, or it's getting merged, then our bot will harass you a little bit and ask you for your address. Sounds wrong. But yeah, Patrick set that up, and if you contribute something, then there's a form you can actually import your address, and he will ship you really nice stickers. I actually don't have one, but because I never did that. But as far as I remember, you will get a Strawberry recipe and a thank you letter, which most open source projects probably don't do because it's expensive, but I don't know, we do it anyways. And you get invited to our GitHub organization. That means on your profile there will be a really cool badge, and it looks like you achieved something, which you actually did. And so I recommend doing that. Okay, now it's probably 5 minutes. Is it? 3? Easy. Okay. Okay, it's not easy, but we can try a bit. How do I exit this? What could go wrong if I click this? Okay, no, my notes are gone. Awesome. Nope. I need this back. Okay, so I will break my neck doing live coding. Let's see. Oh, I'm not seeing anything. It's over there. Help. Okay, so this is just a blank repository. It's actually not even a repository. It's just a blank folder, and that's VS Code. Ah, nice. And maybe we just look at how to get started. So you probably just want to initialize your project in some way. I'm using a package manager. That's usually a good idea. At this conference, you probably heard a lot about UV because it's so fancy. That's probably too small, and it's not really getting better. But if you run UV init, then you have a project now, which is awesome. And all you need to get started is this command that looks longer than it actually is. It's just adding Strawberry GraphQL and the debug server, which is this fancy thing we saw right at the beginning that allows you to run that fancy web interface, which allows you to directly use your schema in a meaningful way. So we're just going to add that. Is it actually going to download that? OK, no. OK, that's probably enough for today. So now we have that. And what we could do now is write a schema. Am I going to do that from scratch? Probably not. Let me copy that over. I don't see my mouse. Is it over there? OK. Hang tight. I have a backup folder somewhere, and it has a schema. That's awesome. Let's just put it in here. Ta-da! That's how you get started. Just copy it from your pre-made backup folder. OK. Oh my God, it's everything. OK, this demo is already flawed. OK. Yeah, that's a schema with everything in it, which is a bit too far because, well, I'm probably just going to show you how things work. OK, what I have here is something should be familiar. So this is the song type we saw earlier. Down here we have the query type and also the resolver of your songs, which I used at some point. The first people will probably notice that there's a duplication which I could fix by just returning songs here, which I forgot. And there's also the play song mutation, which we saw on the slides, but it has an implementation here. And there's also a subscription implementation. Originally, I was planning to show you how to do that from scratch, but since most of this is just bad demo code you shouldn't run anyways, it probably doesn't matter too much. So I'm just going to show you that this is already all you need and that our debug server is really great. So if you do Strawberry, does it say Strawberry over there? Probably not. Strawberry server schema. Schema is the name of the file, except for the file extension. If you run that, then it should spin up a web server. Yeah, and there's a URL. You can just click it, and it hopefully opens them. Oh, it's on the screen. Come over there. Then it will open GraphQL, which is all you need to work with this schema. You could, for example, I pre-wrote this earlier, no, I'm glad I did. You could run the song playing query and would say null, because we're obviously not playing any songs. But if I run the play song mutation, then we suddenly get something back. And if I run the first query again, I get the same thing. I could also play another song. No, it's song 1, and if I play it again, it's the same thing. So that kind of makes sense, I hope. But that's not really impressive, because everyone wants to see the subscriptions working, and I hope they will work. If I open the same thing in another browser, I don't see anything. There's no subscriptions anywhere. Awesome. So we're going to write a subscription. What we can do in this one browser is not a query, but a subscription. There's autocompletion. Song something. We are all dying inside together right now, by the way. So I have a subscription. It's called Song Playing, and it subscribes you to whatever song is playing at the moment. You can think about Spotify, for example. If you have multiple devices, like your phone and your desktop, and you play a song on one device, the other device will show you. That could be something like that. So if I want to show what song is currently playing, I could subscribe to the currently playing song subscription, and it would say whatever it says. That's the song we started playing earlier. And as soon as I use the mutation over here to switch the song to song 3, I should have used cooler names, then it will immediately notify your other browser tab or your other client. Nice. Yeah, and that's Strawberry GraphQL. It said game over, so I stopped.
You can continue a little bit.
Nah, it doesn't matter. No one wants to see the code. There's many ways to do it, and the variant I chose is using async IO events. So the subscriber is just waiting in a loop basically, but then it's pausing and waiting for an event which is triggered by the mutation to like check what's the currently playing song, and that's why it's so fast. Everyone who knows, and everyone else is just going to stay confused. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And so it's Q&A time. And we have some questions. Okay. Okay, this one is, do you think Strawberry should also work as a client for tests and also use other GraphQL APIs from Python?
That's a good question. To some extent, we do some things like that. We are all questioning Patrick's decision to do that, but there's two things. He's like, what are you talking about? One of them is our code generation tool can already help with generating client code to query the API. So that's one thing. I think it even supports TypeScript generation and stuff like that. So we already have that. And the other one regarding testing, that's funny. We have an internal test client we use for our own tests. And it turns out some people found that, and they use it in their tests as well. And apparently it's quite convenient. I wouldn't recommend using it because it's not designed for that. But since we got, well, yeah, okay. Like there's some things I want to change, but I think that's definitely something we want to offer. Turning it into a complete client library is probably not really necessary, because I wrote one, which is not Strawberry. You can use that instead. And there's another popular one for that already. I don't know. Do you have any ideas for Strawberry as a client library? There's not really a need, is there?
Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to see something that's like GraphQL or something.
Yeah. More magic. Maybe we will add more magic. Yeah. Yeah, good point.
You can talk about it outside more.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
whoever asked that can join in and contribute.
Next question. Wouldn't it be too heavy to use WebSockets for everything?
Well, depends. If it's like an extremely data-heavy application that would instead send a lot of requests for some reason, or has to do polling instead to get updated data, especially if you use subscriptions. Like, I would recommend send everything over WebSocket if you're using a WebSocket for subscriptions already. If you don't use subscriptions, then sure, go with HTTP requests, because GraphQL is designed to only run a few requests to get all the data you need at once. In that case, don't use a WebSocket.
Okay. And do you support SSE, server sent events?
There was a slide for it, but I skipped it. We don't support it yet. We looked at it for a long time. I think there's some prototyping happening. Like, I think you teased it on LinkedIn. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, I have my eye on it. I was waiting for the specification for it to feel somehow like more complete, so I don't have to change it all the time. But yeah, that's the next protocol we're going to add.
Okay. And can you talk a bit about differ? When is it coming?
Do you want to say something about it? Man, I only know it from the protocolist perspective, from the WebSocket side. So there's, yeah, no, you talk about it. It's a better idea.
Sorry. Yeah, defer is a way to basically have a single query like that one. Imagine if it's huge with a lot of fields. But if you don't need some of those, like immediately when you receive the first request, you can defer them to later. So you first receive, for example, in the song, you can receive the ID and the title, and then, I don't know, like comments or things like that can come in a subsequent request. It uses the multi-part protocol that we have.
Yeah.
And so it makes, you know, your app a bit faster because it shows the initial information as soon as possible, and then the additional information like later. And it's coming maybe soon. Yeah, like the implementation is pretty much done. We just need more testing, and we're also waiting on the one library that we use that's in alpha, but it should be no alpha soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I also want to add it to the website.
No pressure there. Okay, I think our time is up, and if you have any other questions, I'm sure all of our hosts will be available to answer. And thank you very much.